Hi guys. Okay, so I have just started reading through the Calumet County Sheriff's Department police reports, and I'm just going to quickly go through. So far, I've read through the first 76 pages, so I'm just quickly going to go through what I have highlighted so far that I thought was interesting, and maybe talk a little bit about whatever. Some of these are just going to be quick facts. Some of these things we already know, but some of them are kind of interesting. A lot of these pages have, oh my god, moments like, I've never heard this before, so. Alright, well, anyway. So we're starting off with Karen reporting Teresa missing on the 3rd, on November 3rd. One of the things that I noticed about her report, this is Leslie Lemieux is the one taking this police report from Karen, saying that Karen said that she had been calling around to Teresa's employers and friends. So later on, that's going to come up again because Teresa's business partner, Tom Pierce, says that he was the one that called Karen. But it sounds to me like she's saying that she was the one that called him. So I don't know that for sure, but that's just the way it looks right here by going through this. Karen said the last time Scott, her roommate, had seen Teresa at home was on Sunday afternoon. Scott had not seen or heard from Teresa since. Scott told Karen that Teresa's vehicle was not at the residence either. Later on, when we get into Scott's report, he says something a little bit different. So that part is a little bit interesting. I believe he says something like that he doesn't see Teresa's vehicle after Monday. But here it's saying Sunday was the last time he saw Teresa or her vehicle at the residence. She goes on to say that I spoke with Scott by phone. Scott said the last time he had seen or heard from Teresa was on Sunday afternoon at the house. And then the same detective was going on to speak with Angela Schuster from Auto Trader. Angela said she was waiting for a call back from appointments that Teresa had for the 31st to see if they had indeed been completed. Angela said that she would have become concerned by tomorrow, which would have been the 4th, November 4th, if she had still not heard anything from Teresa. Now, this just makes me wonder why. Because supposedly Teresa has all these appointments on Monday, and she is supposed to have all of these pictures and the documents and whatever overnighted to Auto Trader so that they can get them in the magazine. That she's got basically a deadline for on Tuesday would be her deadline. So she goes out on an appointment on Monday. Her deadline is Tuesday. And she usually faxes the information into Auto Trader to let them know that the appointments have been completed and that she's mailing the disc and all that with the pictures and all the paperwork and the money that she collected. So it's a little moment, wondering why Angela Schuster said she wouldn't have been concerned about not hearing back if Teresa completed these appointments until the 5th. So, until the 4th. The 4th would have been when she would have become concerned, which I thought was, Okay, so next we're going back to talking with Scott again. Scott allowed them to enter the residence. Scott and several of their mutual friends had located Teresa's most recent cell phone activity report on her computer. We already knew that. They printed a copy for us, which showed the last cell phone activity at 2:27 p.m. on Monday, October 31st. We already knew that. I believe that probably because of the time of this, that it may have cut off for some reason, and it didn't show anything past this time on that day on the reports that they turned in. Because when I compared all of the records, the ones that were provided by Teresa's friends, the ones that Ken Kratz produced in the trial, and then the ones provided by the cell phone company. It cuts off right there. They don't turn in anything past that. So I don't believe that they had access to anything past that time. So that's not really something that we didn't know. It was just something, of note that's why. It's not like they were trying to hide anything past that time that we're aware of. They go on to say that they called Teresa's cell phone number. It instantly went to voicemail with the message indicating that her voicemail box was full. Teresa's family said that Teresa had only one cell phone that she used for personal and business use. That's important because we've kind of wondered if Teresa might have had two cell phones, one for business, one for personal, because a lot of us have wondered why a young girl on Halloween wasn't getting lots of calls and messages and stuff like that to hang out on Halloween. And, so we thought maybe she had another phone, but apparently her family says that's not the case. Blah blah blah. So they went into and they collected a journal, Teresa's journal. Which was turned over to us. Scott also allowed us to collect Teresa's computer, which he said was hers alone. Scott showed us her hairbrush, which I then collected a small sample of hair from the brush for possible DNA if needed. Okay, so we're talking about her computer, her personal computer, the one that her friends used to go on to Teresa's phone, her cell phone account, to see if they could get any other information off of it. This is also where her friends got the list of Teresa's contacts that they were contacting and calling to see if they had heard from her. And then they go on to say that I did call the Zipperer residence again and spoke with a male subject, identified himself as George Zipperer. I explained the reason for my call and that Zipperer immediately raised his voice, saying that Auto Trader had trespassed on his property and he did not want any more calls from them. Zipperer said that he was going to contact an attorney if these calls continued. So basically, after they had said, we're looking for a missing girl, Teresa Halbach, she's supposedly come out to take a picture at your residence. She's missing, and he freaks out on him during their first, phone contact with him. They go on to say, I asked George if he had made an appointment for a photo shoot to sell a vehicle with Auto Trader. George said he did not. George said that would have been his son. I asked George if it would be possible to speak with his son. George said he didn't know where he was. I asked George if his son lived there, and he said yes. George said he works 24 hours a day and maybe talks to his son once a month. George said that his son didn't have a cell phone and he didn't know how to contact him. I mean, on and on and on and on and on. George said that he thought his son was headed to Alaska to look for a job. George said that he was going to head to Alaska next month to do the same. George said that his son works all the time too. George said that the Auto Trader had been calling and he did not request their services. George said that he thought they must be con artists. I asked George if he knew whether or not the photographer had shown up on Monday and was indeed on his property. George said he wasn't sure, but he assumed so because he saw an Auto Trader magazine on the kitchen table. George was unwilling to give me his personal information or his son's. Okay, he keeps referring to him as his son, but I believe we're talking about Jason Zipperer, who is actually his grandson. So, I'm not really sure what the living situation is there, like if George's son actually lives there as well. I don't know. But I asked George how to spell his last name, and he spelled it Zizore. I asked George for his date of birth, and he said he forgot it. George then said that I had caught him on a bad day. George said that I had now upset his dog, which I could hear barking in the background. George told me that it was a mean dog, and anybody who came onto his property better watch out, because it could eat them, starting with the feet. Interesting, right? George is all kinds of belligerent and ridiculous, which, you know, later on is explained by George saying that he just likes to have a bit of fun with people who call his phone, and he doesn't know who they are. You know, but he should have known that these were police officers. Like, this was a serious matter, looking for a missing person. He should not be joking or acting stupid. But, you know. Okay, now this was later on in Corporal Leslie Lemieux's report. This is the end of her report, saying at approximately 0:30 hours, so at 12:30 midnight, on November 4th, I received a phone call from Teresa's coworker at Pierce Photography, Thomas Pierce. He stated that the last time he saw Teresa was at the studio on Saturday. He said that he had become concerned today as he had not seen or heard from her since Saturday. Pierce said that he had expected her to at least stop by Wednesday morning because she was a member of a ladies' business group. Pierce did say that Teresa had mentioned to him several odd occurrences while working for Auto Trader magazine. He said Teresa told him she had problems with male clients over the summer after a photo shoot and while filling out paperwork and taking payment. She often was invited into the homes. He said that Teresa said some males became verbally or physically flirtatious, offering her drinks, etc. He had warned her to be careful being alone, oftentimes in rural areas. Pierce did say Teresa had mentioned she had been receiving multiple calls from an unfamiliar number to her cell phone recently. The caller would never leave a message. Pierce said, as far as he knew, Teresa had not answered any of those calls and did not know the caller. Pierce said he remembered one day her commenting when the phone rang, again the same number, they just called 5 minutes ago. Pierce said Teresa said she did not recognize the number and did not answer. Okay, now I find that pretty important because I believe in his trial testimony he talks about these calls, like Teresa knows who the caller is, and when he offers to intervene and get involved and help her out to get these calls to stop, she acts like, no, it's okay, don't worry about it, it's no big deal. Like she knew who it was and it wasn't a big deal. She wasn't too concerned about it. And that's the way, you know, he made it sound in his testimony. But in this report, which I believe is also on November 4th, I'm sorry, it's on November 3rd or 4th. He makes it sound like she didn't know who it was, that this repeated calls from this unknown number to Teresa that wouldn't leave a message, and she refused to answer it. So that's a little concerning. I don't know what that means. Okay, so I'm going to cut this video off. I'm going to make another on the next few pages of what I've found in the reports, and we'll just keep going from there, because, you know, I'm covered in highlighter and I've got a lot more reading to do, so I'm going to try to go through this as quick as I can. Alright, thanks for watching.